is, number one, is very convenient. Number two, 0 fatalities since it's initiated. Its performance record is about 94% on time. So those who are looking at using it as a commuter, it's wonderful. You can read, you can use the Wi-Fi, you can walk around. There's restrooms in it, and so a lot of great opportunities for the ACE train. Here, this slide here kind of tells you a little bit of where the majority of the folks originate and where they initiate and where they make their way out to work. So San Jose is where the majority of the folks in this region and in the Tri-Valley area make their way. Here's a typical, people are sometimes wondering, okay, how much money are we talking about for a round trip? And so it's broken down into 3 areas. One is a round trip, the other one is a 20 ride, and then the monthly. The majority of the folks buy the 20 ride, but as you could see, a total cost of $24.25 for a round trip from the Stockton area to Great America. So just imagine jumping on your car and having to deal with all the traffic, 1. 2, how much you're going to pay in gas, and then 3, hopefully you find a parking spot, and then 4, I don't think it's going to be free. You're going to have to pay for your parking, so you can just calculate in your mind what it's going to cost you if you had to travel by automobile. Well, here you're looking at, if you buy a 20 ride trips, you're looking at $9.41. If you look at the time travel, well, hopefully there's no traffic jams, but it's roughly about the same. It's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. And so it's kind of a no-brainer from the standpoint of, if I'm going to go work in the Bay Area, you know, would I rather take my car or should I jump on the train? So here's some opportunities. Again, I mentioned some of these benefits of activities of what the riders do, and so all of the trains, the actual trains have Wi-Fi in them, and currently there's only 4 daily round trips. By the time they make it out to the Modesto area, you're looking at enhancing that to 8. And then, well, actually to 6, and then by the time it makes its way out to the Merced area, you're looking at 10 daily round trips. So there's going to be many more options. A lot of folks, those who are 49er fans, there is service, you know, for those games, and so folks can be assured that they can get on the train, and the stop is right in front of the stadium. So very beneficial. So again, you could see here where the proposed stations are and where the potential stations are, and I'm going to go one more slide. Especially, there's a great opportunity here for Atwater, because one of the potential stations is either going to be in Livingston or in Atwater. It's not going to stop in both. So so here's an opportunity to start looking at how economically is going to impact, what are the economic development opportunities that exist for Atwater, and this is the perfect time to start, because we have some time between now and when it's actually going to make its way here, to see how it's all going to dovetail, and how Atwater can definitely benefit from a platform train depot here in Atwater. A lot of folks are wondering, okay, well, what kind of ridership do we have? Well, right now you're looking at 1.3 million riders, and by 2020, by the time it makes its way down to this neck of the woods, you're looking at about 2.25. And if it's integrated with the other modes of transportation, by 2025, it jumps up to 5.9 million riders. So it's only going to continue to increase. This slide here is the diversion of automobile miles, and so again, 84.1 million miles would be diverted by the time it makes its way out to Modesto, and eventually to the Merced area. You're looking at about 187 million miles diverted, and so we all know that there's quite a bit of money that is used to address our roads and bridges and things of that nature. So the more cars that we can divert off the freeway, the better, because it's going to help us environmentally and then economically as well. In terms of the Altamont Corridor capital improvement costs, here are some costs for the San Joaquin County, Stanislaus County, but I know you guys are more interested in the Merced County area. So our project cost that's outlined right now is about $227 million. Of that $227 million, the local match for Merced County is $56 million. And so that's why we're trying to advocate and bring awareness and education way ahead of time, because there's time for planning, asking questions, and making sure that whatever that formula is going to be and what that transportation measure is going to be, that everybody has an opportunity to submit or comment on what elements they want to see in their overall funding formula to pass something in the next couple of years or the next 4 years, or even by 2020. The Merced County summary of ACE forward cost, as you could see, this is broken down by capital projects and then the fleet costs and the operation costs, and it's outlined on the local share part on the far right corner for you to, if you have any questions on that. And so we do have a Facebook page, we do have a web page. You'll be seeing myself and other colleagues coming back. This is not going to be the first or the last time, but we wanted to at least give you an opportunity to know a little bit about what's happening, and then, of course, we would love to meet individually to give you more information and then provide more in-depth presentations in the near future. But did you get a chance to pass that flyer out? We do have a one or two page back or one page back-to-back flyer that has a little synopsis of the actual ACE Forward program. And so and then we also have, if you're interested, if anybody out in the public, we do have a regional economic impact report that was done by the Great Valley Center, if you're interested in knowing a little bit more in terms of the economic impact. But overall, this will be great for Merced County, and we're more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Ramirez? Councilman Raymond?
Yes, I want to ask where the funding is coming from to match.
Great question, Mr. Raymond. So one of the things that I mentioned in my presentation is that Merced County is going to have to put together some type of transportation measure of sorts. More than likely, you're going to start having discussions about this as soon as this summer, and your representative to the MCAG board, the Mayor Price, I believe, is the designee. Okay, and so you're going to start the conversations about how that transportation measure is actually, what's going to be incorporated in there and how much for what. It could be transit, it can be sidewalks, it can be bicycle paths, it can be roadway improvements. Typically, each county has an array of different priorities, and so there might be some polling that folks might do, and from that, the chunks and what needs to be part of that overall pie, we don't know yet. That's going to be a local driven measure. But we're here to assist and help. But what I can tell you that it has to be a 25% match.
Now, is any of this coming from the high-speed rail funds that are out there as well?
There's the high-speed rail. I know one of the things is that high-speed rail is really separate and apart from this, even though there is a little bit of relationship because we're passenger rail service. But we are not high-speed rail, and high-speed rail, their time frame and of course their track is very different. We're using the existing UP line and just making some enhancements and some improvements.
Okay, and then where is the actual ACE funding coming from?
Oh, great question. The ACE funding is actually there's several components to this. I mentioned about the 25% match, so let me use this real quick and go back a teensy bit. Okay, so if you look at all the different counties that extend from San Jose all the way to Stockton and then all the way down to Manteca, so whether it's Santa Clara County, Alameda County, San Joaquin County, et cetera, they're all paying their fair share of improvements, and then, of course, the fares that they receive. And then there is a little bit of grant funding from time to time that they apply for and they receive. So in order for it to make it all the way down to Merced, Stanislaus County is going to have to come up with their local match. So they're going to have to come up with their own sales tax measure or transportation tax measure. And so when you make it out to Merced County has to come up with their own 25% match. And that money, more than likely, is going to come through some type of transportation measure that has to be initiated locally. And one other thing, if Stanislaus County, for whatever reason, doesn't get a sales tax or transportation tax measure passed in the time frame that we think, then they might delay Merced County. But good question. Any other questions?
Any other questions? So basically, if Stan County were to opt out of this program, would Merced County have to foot the cost that Stanislaus normally pays to get it here, or how would that work? Or would it be dead in the water?
Yeah, very good question. First, the likelihood of that happening, I don't think it will. I think there's quite a bit of, I know that there's been some challenges in Stanislaus County. I think it's just going to be delayed because it wouldn't be the actual, I don't think it would rest well with anybody, whether it's be Merced County in general or even Stanislaus County, to have to flip somebody else's bill. So I think it would just delay it.
Okay. Any other questions from the dais? Do we have any questions or comments from the? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Rivero.
Thank you. On your map, you're saying Livingston or Atwater downtown. Now, in the resolution that was passed, there's no mention of Atwater. So is this the same thing as being presented to all cities?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
It's
because I noticed that in the resolution, it's talking about Turlock, Livingston, and Merced. There's no mention in Atwater in a previous resolution, so I was just curious about that. And one of the points of this is supposed to reduce miles traveled. And Livingston's roughly 1/3 the size, the city of Atwater 1/2 the size. But it doesn't make sense to me why you would even be including Livingston in comparison to Atwater, because you'd have a larger percentage of people traveling to either to Merced or Livingston from Atwater than a small city would. So what is the reasoning behind the Livingston or Atwater downtown? Is that just to get everybody on board, or I want to know what the reasoning was for that.
well, very good question, Mr. Rivero. As far as the reasoning, I would have to actually check in with the, I don't know the answer to that, to be really honest with you, so I would have to check in with them. But my guess is that, well, first of all, it says potential station, so that means that there has not been a decision made on whether it's going to be in Atwater or Livingston. And so this is a great opportunity for Atwater to make the case, should Atwater really want the station to stop here, or the train to stop here, that you put forward your best, case for its stoppage here. So that's a great opportunity for you there. But as far as what they actually use to determine whether it should be Atwater or Livingston, I don't really know the answer to that, but I can get back to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Then we'll open it to the public, if anybody has any questions or comments. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. We can entertain a motion. I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the request from Imogen Public Relations and direct city manager to prepare a resolution supporting both projects for city council action at the regular council meeting on July 13th, 2015.
Second.
Any further discussion? Then we'll call for the question.
Vineyard,
Yes.
Rivero,
No.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to you individually if you so choose, and we will get back to you, Mr. Rivera. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Are you getting used to being on that side of the dais yet?
Not yet.
City Attorney reports and updates. Monthly review of local drought emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you were aware, you adopted resolution number 2823 declaring a local drought emergency. The government code and the terms of that resolution require you to revisit the resolution and the facts supporting it. This should be fairly simple. I don't think there's been any rain in Atwater since we adopted this resolution. I don't think the conditions have changed in any respect, and so staff's recommendation is that the council, by motion, declare that the facts and circumstances surrounding the resolution have not changed and that there is a continuing need for that resolution. So if the council is agreeable to that, a motion to that effect would be in order.
Do we have any comments? Councilman Vineyard?
Yeah, I would just like to know the status of the flyer that's being sent out. Do we have any word when that's going to be sent out?
Should be out within the next 3 days.
Okay. Just in reference to it, it's just because there's concern, confusion with people out there as far as the ordinance states that we are down to 2 watering days. There are a lot of people out there that are watering. I know it's been in the newsletter, so people need to realize that we are down to 2 watering days each, and the hours have changed. So you need to read the newsletter and be looking for that flyer out there. Even number houses are Tuesdays and Saturdays. Odd number houses are Wednesdays and Sundays. People need to remember that the watering hours are from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Talked to the CSO. He's been out informing people. I know the volunteers have been out informing people and handing out the flyers, and they've done approximately 35 to 40 notices since the ordinance is passed. So be aware of it, people. And I've been asked to make that statement because there still is confusion out there, and we still see a lot of people watering every day of the week or on the days that aren't they're supposed to be watering, which is Mondays and Thursdays and Fridays, watering out of hours. So please strive to try to help us reach our goal, which is mandated by the state, and be looking for those flyers. I'll make a motion that we reaffirm the ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? I'll go ahead and second the motion to continue. Councilman Rivero.
Yeah, just for city attorney, by affirming this, it's also agreeing to the penalties and everything else in the ordinance.
This merely pertains to the resolution that was adopted that declares there to be a drought emergency. It does not have to do specifically with enforcement or any penalties or anything like that. All you have to do under the government code and under the resolution is affirm that the facts that give rise to the urgency and the emergency have not changed. And quite simply, since it hasn't rained and there's been no change in the drought, it's just a routine matter. It probably should have been on consent, but we were required to do it under the government code. So you're not reaffirming any penalties or ordinance changes or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments? Are there any comments from the public? Yes, sir. If you can come up to the podium.
Again, my name is Michael Pacheco. I'm concerned about some of the businesses in town. I noticed that some of them, their lawns are very green. Do the enforcement people go out and check the businesses? I'm talking the shopping center where Kmart is. Okay, and the other thing, I seen a sign out in front of Kmart this last week. It said, "Be prepared to soak." It was stuck into the grass in front of the entrance, and it showed a water hose with nozzle spraying on the grass. I brought this to the attention of the manager at the time, and he said that it was corporate and they couldn't change it. It's like that business was promoting soaking your water, your lawn. And I don't know if you guys check that stuff or not. That's all.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, we'll bring it back to the dais. We'll entertain a motion. Oh, we had the motion, I'm sorry. We'll call for the question. Yeah.
Rivero,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Yes.
Vineyard, Bergman,
Yes.
motion carries.
Sorry, you got a rookie up here.
City manager reports, awarding a cooperative purchase agreement for Laserfish Avante solution to Ray Morgan Company.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, as you're quite aware, the Mayor Pro Tem suggested this several months ago in reference to saving some of the cost effective with putting our package together. We have two representatives from the Ray Morgan Company here to give a small presentation. This basically would be a cooperative agreement, and it would give us 19 full users of Laserfish Avante solutions with custom agenda packet workflow. This doesn't include any of the hardware that we would need. These are just licenses for the company. So I will turn it over to the individuals. Could you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Andreas Witt.
Tamerlanda Becker. Good evening. We are going to do a brief, excuse me.
If you could talk into the microphone,
Yes.
please.
I always think I'm loud. Thank you. City Manager Petro and Mayor Pro Tem Bergman, as well as City Council members. We are going to be doing a brief overview this evening, and then we have a specialist available on the line, Jeff, that worked with us closely on this project that will actually provide you an example of what the solution would look like to enable you through your meetings to utilize it. So first up, Ray Morgan Company, we are 50 years document technology company, 20 locations, 350 plus employees at this time, 17 years experience with Laserfish. So we have product engineers and specialists and a tremendous support team and project managers. We have more Laserfish certifications that are value-added resellers in the entire world. We're very proud of that. Laserfish has been around since 1987. Full content management suite, process automation and workflow within, 24/7 access to documents from any computer or mobile device. Web access allows you to work with your documents from the Laserfish repository, and the repository looks very much like Microsoft Word. So it's something that everyone feels very comfortable with in maneuvering around and being able to locate the contents and the documents. You locate that through the repository, through the web browser. Laserfish app, iPad and/or Android also allows you to access your documents through any mobile device. So it's a mobile device of your choice going forward. The highlights, being able to deploy enterprise-wide instantly and simple support, create and manage documents from anytime, anywhere, and expanding the content, access and promote participation in business processes. So being able to work together regarding the different types of processes as well. And there are checks and balances along the way so that you know where you're at in the process. Any questions so far? Okay. Regarding the automation, it's repeatable processes, and being able to, for you and how it's practical, is the agendas and the council commission packet prep, notifying individuals of the status and where you're at in the process to complete the projects, and setting reminders for tasks for participants. That in itself is extremely efficient and saves time rather than cumbersome documents and hard copies. The highlights, being able to distribute to the needed parties for simultaneous approvals and tracking of the packet status, and completing agendas automatically and compiling them. So not the old-fashioned boardroom of having to copy everything, print it, and compile it together.
So the overall benefit for this is to save time in a number of different processes, how the documents are prepared and how they're viewed and how the workflow is throughout your facility. So using Laserfish forms allows you to set agenda items to be submitted through any web browser from anywhere. So you're not restricted to be right at your desktop. You can be here, you can be anywhere within the facility. Laserfish workflow to route the submission and appropriate meeting folder and send an email out to the first approver. So this is, if you have approvals required through your entire process, and I think as you're setting the agendas, you need to have certain approvals. This is all an automatic process electronically. It tracks it. Again, you don't have to track the paper. So that's a very major benefit. Each submission is approved, moved to another meeting, or could be denied by any approver. So even here at the council, you can do your approvals or denials at that time. Electronic record is kept. Again, the overall benefit is to save time in all your processes that you're doing. Approved agenda items are arranged and the workflow assembles the final agenda packet. So the staff, there's a lot of time put in this developing your agenda packets. What we did is we performed a workflow study with 4 of your members, 4 of your staff members. From that, we determined that there was a lot of time that could be saved. And just based on the time alone that we're able to save, just to put your board agenda together, this process will save your staff $2,700 a month in labor that's involved. And we detailed every step of the process. For doing development and research, working for the Community Development and Resources Commission, we were able to save another $272 a month. Now, these are only 2 workflow processes that we worked on. There are other processes that the city will have available to them as well. So the total combined savings per month in time and labor is just slightly over $3,000 a month. Laserfish workflow, as I mentioned, has other business processes that can be added in the future. Also, many green initiative goals can be met immediately with the structure in place. So up there we have the ROI set up. Okay, as you can see, the ROI is going to be after 16 months. Just about 17 months it will have paid for itself. Very important also in this process. So the proposal that we did put together is co-opable, as we mentioned at first. So this was part of the contract that we set up when we did the multifunctional devices. It was all encumbered in that particular proposal. So that's a great positive. There will be a maintenance program that will be budgeted the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 5th year. Well, however long you have the program, okay? This has been suggested as a cash purchase. There's
To
just
interject,
the
the support is included for the first year, so that's why
Thank
we
you.
only mentioned years 2 through 5 or what have you, because the first year is included with
Right.
the original proposal.
So this is just the invoice, just a detail of this entire process, of the entire solution. We have a gentleman online right now that will take you through this process, what your feel will be as council members as you're with your, whether you have an iPad, whether you have a tablet, whether you work with your mobile phone, you'll be able to work with this, and he's going to take you through that. So we got Jeff.
The other ability that will come about is for the public facing. So with the public facing, whichever tablet or mobile device you would choose, they would also have the opportunity to look at the information, and that information would be displayed on the screen. So as you're approving and going through, so they would also have that ability. They wouldn't have to go to the website and look at a PDF document. They'd actually have access to seeing it in the meeting as well. Jeff was here during the first meeting, and he is our product manager as well as an engineer. So he helps with implementation and future planning, and I'll talk a little bit about future planning. When it comes to implementation, it's something we do extremely well. With that, we have a project manager and a full implementation team, and typically, implementation is anywhere from 60 to 90 days, and we work very closely with you to decide how those timelines are allocated. No, it's okay. Not a problem. Technology. Jeff's on there? Okay. So what Jeff did was a proof of concept. He utilized, I have a hard copy. He utilized the agenda for this evening, took Laserfish, put that inside of the Laserfish application so that you would actually see going forward, real time, what it would look like in the future, to expose you as to what you would actually see and what you would actually do in the future. He has that part of it done. We're having problems connecting to the go-to meeting. He's up in Reading.
You're on the screen.
We're going to be saving you time, obviously, that relates to these return on investment savings. This is that form, but there's the other part of this, and that is how do you interact with these documents once they're electronic? So today I wanted to give you a couple of ideas. One is in my limited here with how do I look at my documents? I like Windows. I like Apple. I like my tablets. Is there any limitations? The answer is no. And obviously, we haven't talked with you, those of you who would be interacting with these documents. That discussion is yet to come, and to find which of these ideas are the best for you. So with that, I'm going to just tear into it. And I did want to make sure that you saw this screen. This is where everything started. This is where your return on investment is. And we're going to log in now as James. Probably, something that might happen in real life is that you get an email with your council meeting, a shortcut to the council meeting document. And of course, as this is all automated, this agenda packet is put together and assembled. And once somebody goes through and approves this, you might get this email automatically. But let's just start from an email, just for the sake of a place to start. And I'm going to click on this link, and it's going to open in my browser. I'm going to log in with my username and password. I'm going to log in as James here. The 2-hour time limit. Let me just set it down. We'll log in as James. So James likes the Windows 7 desktop. Log in as James, and he's used to seeing folder structure. Here are our meetings, so you can see that I'm able to customize this view. Here's the folders on the left. Up here across the top is a customizable column, so depending on which documents I'm looking at, I'm able to see some of this pertinent information. What meeting is this for? Here's some personal notes that are tied to my login. So if I double click on this, this is the Windows client. You'll see that I get a document viewer that's customized to my needs. I can move these columns around anywhere I want. So it depends on how I want to look at my agenda packet. Is how this is going to end up set up. I wanted to point out a couple of things, and I'm going to race through this, and just know that we have a much more detailed conversation with the county. These are secured notes. So this is an example of a field that's locked down to one person. So when James logs in, he gets to see this. There are many others that are out there. Like, for instance, Brian's got a login as well. He's not going to be able to see James' notes. James could keep his notes inside Laserfish if he wanted. Perhaps this is where you keep some of the supporting information for the decision that you made. Or maybe it's a special note on, let's go see. James is going to go to page, we're going to go to page 123. And you can see here's an example of an annotation, which means that, instead of writing this in a handwritten copy of the document, was there a question?
No. Not yet.
Okay. So here's an example of an annotation, and this is also I can secure these annotations to myself, or if I'm collaborating on this document with my other council members, I could share it. Like, for instance, this annotation, if I look at it, you can see that it is not private, meaning that everyone gets to see this. So this note right here will be viewable for anybody who opens this document. They can search here. This one up here is a note to myself. So I, as James, I lock this thing down to where this is supporting my decision, or maybe it's pertinent information that I want to keep with me. I tag this thing as private, but I still get to search. Me as James only. Everyone else doesn't get to search and find these personal notes to myself. So, and how do you get these things on here? It's actually pretty easy. You can do highlighting. So you just select the tool at the top bar. Here's a personal stamp. Again, this is the Windows view. But most of the time, we want something a little more portable. Again, this is an enterprise content management system. So the goal here is to have access to your documents, not just up there where you're at, but anywhere in the field. Maybe you're arming all of your inspectors with tablets, and now they have access to these documents. So your view is very similar to theirs. So let's take a look at this other view. I'm going to open up an email, and I'm going to log in with the same login to Laserfish. This time we're going to log in as Brian. Well, let's do it over here. Just so you know, my demo license has a 2-hour limit, so I must have been playing with this for a little while I was waiting. But let's get in and take a look at this. Log in as demo. One other thing before I
why he's going through this because
there we go.
This is expired. It's just part of the software. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a limitation on my demo license. It's got timers on it, and I can only put so many documents in my repository. You obviously wouldn't have any of these limitations. But so when I logged in, I clicked on that link. Actually, I copied that link into the Internet Explorer browser, and it wasn't on that timer yet. And I get to see a different view. It looks very similar. So if I went and looked. Let's get out of this document specifically, and we're going to go look at the folder view. Again, it's a very familiar folder, and if this was an Apple or an iOS device, maybe these folders are blue, and it looks exactly the same as something I'm very familiar with. How do you navigate around? Well, I can do several things. I can do searches for these documents. For instance, if I look for the word packet in my quick search field, and my quick search is looking for fields, we're going to do entry name and text, meaning that the text inside the documents are searchable. So I'm going to do my quick search, and you'll see that it gives me my search results. I'm going to pull this up. Here's my search results, and I'm able to pull open, here's the city council meeting, and if I expanded this, you'd be able to see that it found this because the entry name in his packet. Looking at the documents, this is, again, it's through a web browser, which means it'll work on, your laptops, your Apple, even the tablets. So the tablets, if you didn't want to use the native Laserfish client, and I wanted to go to page 123. Here's, again, I'm logged in as Brian, and you can see that Brian does not get to see those James's notes on this document. Remember, he had there was 1 year of annual support in there that James had noted. But he does get to see this one common note sent to me by somebody else. So I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of, yes, this can scale to the size that you need. You're not limited by any of these views. In fact, if you don't like that search result, we have you're able to do a more advanced search result and find even collections of documents. So the last time that this came up, maybe I look for other co-opable contracts in Laserfish. I can search, in this case, I can search this for this annotation for co-opable contract. I'm going to just pull out so you get one more view of these folders. And I know we wanted to keep it short and tight, but was there, were there any questions?
Any questions at all?
Do we have any questions at this time?
I would say one last thing, the takeaway is this is Department of Defense certified, and log on to information is based on your credentials, so it can be very individual. Security is always important, we understand that. We don't have any questions, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Phone just died.
Perfect time.
So is that your
So,
presentation?
yeah, that's the solution that we're offering. There was a little bit of an overview. There's more when you get the solutions. There is training that's involved to get you up and running. Part of the gist of that demonstration was to show that it's a Windows environment, simple to use, things that most people are very used to using, unless you're using Apples, of course. But you can still use the iMacs. You can use all that sort of thing with this solution as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Councilman Vineyard.
Okay, you talked about the $50,000 is for the purchase and the support for the first year. What would be the cost for the second, third
The
year?
ongoing support.
Yeah, the ongoing
It's
support.
roughly $7,500.
Okay.
And that's outlined in.
Okay, thanks.
75.
Thank you.
And that would reflect the savings still on an annual basis.
Even within the ROI.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll open it up to the public. If there's any members of the public that would like to comment, come forward to the podium, please.
Boosting, 60 La Playa Way, Atwater, California. I can't believe you're even thinking about this. Our financial situation is bad, right? We shouldn't even be spending money. I wasn't able to come to the last meeting because I had a treatment that day. And some of the things that went on that day, I couldn't believe. Where is the concept of, let's not spend any money, let's try to watch what we're spending? I mean, I would like a new computer system at my house. But because of all the medical bills I'm going through right now, I wouldn't think of it. I mean, I'd have to take money out of my savings account to do this. But $50,000 doesn't seem to matter to anybody up there. We have a computer system. When we are in a better financial situation, I can see possibly getting it, but no. As a resident, this really upsets me. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ruth. Any others that would wish to comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. I also have a few concerns. I know we saw total savings up there, but we see no breakdown. And I know I'm not the only one that likes to see numbers. We'd like to see exactly where these breakdowns, the breakdown of where these costs are. And another thing that concerns me is we're talking about $50,000 here. We have no idea. We have seen no numbers on what the hardware is going to cost. You know, we could be buying into something here at $50,000 and find out we're going to spend another fortune on hardware. I'd like to see those numbers as well, so we have the whole package. So when we're looking at this and talking about this, we have all the numbers in front of us. So personally, I'd like to put this off until the next meeting so we can have an idea of what the hardware is going to cost and everything broken down so we can see dollar by dollar where we're talking about. Because I do agree, this isn't a big amount of money that we're talking about here, not knowing what the entire cost is going to be.
We do have those support documents, and we'd be happy to provide those.
Okay. So if we could, you have the cost for the hardware as well?
Yes.
Well, obviously, right now, we wouldn't have time to review it all. Personally, I'd like to see it put off till the next meeting so we have time to get this information ahead of time and go through it and be able to all rationalize the numbers at our own time.
We also have the support documentation regarding the breakdown of the individuals and the analysis, and that would give you all of the comprehensive information regarding the savings and the costs, current expense.
Good. So if we have no other comments, Councilman Rivera.
No, I'd like that, make sure all of us get all the numbers and the breakdown before, and then since the mayor isn't here tonight too, that's something he can also look at if we hold it off.
Would you be willing to make that in a motion?
Yeah, I'm willing to make that a motion. I also had another point too from the presentation, and I think it's a legal issue. I think there's potential litigation that could come from this. When they were talking about where all the members of the council could see it, or it would just be private, I believe there's things right now that have been in litigation where people use their cell phones that were communicating with each other that the public didn't see, and so I think that needs to be addressed too before we go right into this, and then you can come back to us with some of those big issues, because if it comes to a situation where it's being shared with other members, not to the public, I think isn't that a violation of some sort?
You've raised at least one really good question there that we would have to look at and probably come up with some policy language to address. The other issue is if there are notes that are circulating and then they're gone, how are they retained for public records purposes? So we'd have to look at the whole host of issues that come along with that, but we wouldn't be the first ones to look at it, so we'll take a look at it and address that.
Okay, well, with that, I'd like to make a motion and bring it back at the next meeting, all the information of all the breakdowns.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Rivera, seconded by Councilman Vineyard. Could you read the motion back? Just to make sure we're all clear on.
Sure. I believe the motion is to continue this item into the 7/13 meeting so that it can be presented as a whole packet together and not just the Laserfish portion of the project.
As well as bringing back the legal issue.
Right. The
Okay.
policies.
Any other comments? And I'll call for the question.
Rivera,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Vineyard,
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Council matters, review of City Council recognition and award presentation policy.
Okay, I believe in the past, there's been some questions. There have been times where there's been a lot of time spent on awards and recognitions. Some of these which could have been handed out at awards programs through schools or other programs that these different groups have, and I think that's the reason it was put on the agenda. So do we have any comments or discussion on this? Right. Right, if we'll refer to the the paragraph at the bottom of page 1 where it talked about athletic and academic accomplishments. There was some discussion in a past meeting about changing that, where here it states that they will attend a city council meeting. I believe there was some talk about rewording this to where if they have a presentation program at the school, that a member of the city council attend and hand out these awards and recommendation or accommodations at those events. So I believe that was the talk about the changing in this section. Councilman Rivera.
No, I think that that's a good point, too. If the schools or something are having some, that the council members could go out and award some of those. However, I think that in cases where there's not, that we should continue it. I mean, we've had, since I've been here, we've had committees, we've had groups and organizations that have been represented, we've had Eagle Scouts, we've had school children for academics or other awards. So I think if there's an opportunity to go out to, whether it's a Rotary or 4th of July committee, you could go out to them, but I think it's always nice to the council to kind of represent them here at the council. So I think if there's opportunities, we could do that, but I don't want to see us change it where you say, no, you can't bring in a group or something of that matter. So if you want to add something to it, if it's possible to do that, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I actually think what the recommendation was is just to add a clause that if available or if possible, to award it at the particular group's event. If not, then obviously, of course, we still want to make sure they're recognized for their accomplishments. So
Right.
I think what they're looking at is just to add the clause that that obviously we want to go to their events first, then if not, leave the city council in there.
Right.
So is there any other discussion? Councilman Vineyard.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I think that the first priority was trying to make it to where they recognize it at the location where they get the benefit of their own group recognized, getting the recognition where they get the larger number of their own association or their own school seeing their awards presented versus being on TV or here, where a smaller group of people see them get the award. So I think that to try to make it that we get the first opportunity would be at a site like the school site, auditorium, or at Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or their own association, whatever association first, and then a secondary would be here if they're not having a meeting of some type.
Would you like to put that in the form of a motion? Oh, Councilman Rivera.
The only drawback is I don't want to see us just going out to like, okay, the Scouts meeting, because I think there's a lot to the youth and other groups if they're actually recognized by the council right in front, and they get to see themselves on TV, and all their friends do too, and their parents and families get to do that. So I don't want to see us excluding all these groups. I mean, there's been a lot of people over the times I remember that have done a lot of good. One of the Cub Scout groups actually received an award, but they went out and they beautified a section of the community, and because of that, the school district ended up putting pipeline in and such out there. So instead of weeds, now there's flowers that are growing. So, I think it's good though sometimes that you give the youth that opportunity, and even some of the other ones in the community that aren't recognized in front of the council and the whole city of Atwater. It's good to know, what the 4th of July committee does when they're brought here. So I just don't want to see us where we start to exclude and say, okay, you're not here in front of the council, in front of the whole city of Atwater watching. So I think if there's an opportunity, yes, but I wouldn't want to see us in that, because I think there's a lot that comes to that. I mean, people need to be recognized. I mean, look at our 4th of July every year. They're out there toiling to try to make it come off. The Cub Scouts do a lot. The Eagle Scouts have been presented for awards. So I think it's a good thing, just as long as we're not excluding that aspect of bringing people
Well, we could do it
and recognizing them.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem.
We could do it based on the agreement of both parties and based on what on the agenda that evening, because obviously if it's heavy an agenda, we don't want to try to do that. We'd rather try to go to their location. If the agenda's light, then we could make the arrangements to do it here. perhaps I could make it the motion that the award ceremonies could be based on the agreement of both parties and based on what's the status of the agenda for that evening of the city council.
Possibly the availability of a presentation or an opportunity to present at their level. Like
Correct.
high school sports, they have big awards
right.
programs and that. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Councilman Vineyard, second by Councilman Raymond. Any further discussion? And we'll call for the question.
Raymond,
Yes.
Rivero,
Yes?
Vineyard,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
motion carries. City council comments and requests for future agenda items.
We'll start with Councilman Rivero.
Okay, let's see. I'd like for direction to the city manager to place on the next agenda an update to the Melrose and what's taking place there. My understanding is that it's going to be paid off in, August 1st, but I'd like an update at our next meeting. Also, I'd like to direct the city manager to start putting together a solar ribbon cutting committee or start putting something together for that. My understanding is that some of the groups, like last time we had the big solar complex out, that they paid for everything. It was pretty educational. They were given, there were some speeches given and some information put out for the public about what it entailed, and some, they actually went through and talked about their solar type of, of everything that the solar panels did and such. So I'd like for you to start.
Any specific company or what?
Well, I'll get back to you on that too. I'd like to be part of that too, if that's at all possible, or if you need a committee, that's fine too. So, anyway, so. Oh, and then for the Melrose, if you could see if August 20th, if the center would be available at that time to give a presentation about the conclusion, hopefully the conclusion, everything's going well, as it seems to be, of the Melrose problem, so. Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Vineyard.
I actually have nothing. Thank you.
Councilman Raymond.
I just want to ask to see if we're going to be moving forward with looking into a balanced budget resolution for the city. And if so, an update on that next meeting. Thank you.
I just would like to ask that we ensure that the issue of the Veterans Park, that we have the Adopt a Park program brought in for possible action. I think it's very important. We've got citizens out there that want to step up, and I think we need to take advantage of it. And lastly, I would like to adjourn the meeting in honor of Mr. Delno Rush. Many longtime citizens and employees remember Del. He was the Public Works Superintendent from 1985 to 1997. Del unfortunately had to retire due to health issues. He did fight a long fight, and he fought it hard, but unfortunately, we did lose him on April 1st. So I'd like to adjourn this meeting in memory of Delno Rush. This meeting is adjourned.